You are Locked On Longhorns, your daily podcast on the Texas Longhorns. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
The Texas Longhorns season came to a brutal end tonight in Dayton as the Longhorns lose to Xavier in the first four of the NCAA Tournament. The final score from UD Arena, Xavier 86, Texas 80. The Longhorn season comes to an end, and we've got some serious questions about the future of the Texas men's basketball program. What's going on, boys and girls? Welcome in to a live edition of Locked On Longhorns. Appreciate all of you tuning in. Thank you for making Locked On a big part of your day, your team every day. And an unfortunate video tonight as Texas was in control for most of this game, and they let things slip away in the second half. They really let things get away down the stretch as the Musketeers closed the game out on a 16-6 run, and Xavier completes the comeback, the biggest comeback of the year for them, and just a demoralizing way for Texas to end a very frustrating season. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. We'll give you all a few minutes to come in here, but chime in if you're watching this live. I want to hear from you. Your thoughts on tonight's game, your thoughts on the season as a whole, your thoughts on where the Longhorns need to go from here. Texas ends the season at 19-16. The good news, they made the NCAA tournament for the third consecutive year. The bad news, they bow out in the first four. And this was a team that started the year ranked in the top 25. They actually started the year ranked in the top 20, and they end up bowing out really before the tournament starts. I know technically the first four is a part of the tournament, but to me, this is a play-in game to be a part of the actual dance. So in my eyes, Texas didn't even make the dance. And to go into the year as one of the top 20 teams in America and to not even qualify for the field of 64, to waste a generational talent with Trey Johnson, who deserves some blame for this season going down the way that it did, and tonight's game going down the way that it did, but to waste a lottery pick who's probably going to dominate at the next level for years to come, that makes this year hurt even more. This was a pretty talented roster, but unfortunately, it just never came together. It was never consistent, and you felt like with what Texas did in Nashville at the SEC tournament last week, beating Vanderbilt, beating A&M in double overtime to get to this spot, you felt like maybe they had turned a corner. And hey, this is as healthy as this team has been all season long. You've got Kendall Weaver back. You've got Arthur Kaluma getting a few extra days to get his body right. Felt like, all right, Texas has a shot, even though the game is close to Xavier, even though Xavier is a solid team. Felt like maybe Texas had found something in that SEC tournament. Maybe they had the pieces to go on a little bit of a run here. And, well, for 25 to 30 minutes of this game tonight, it sure looked like that was the case. But things completely unraveled in the second half. Xavier, way too many three-pointers. They're one of the best three-point shooting teams in the country. That was the one way Texas was going to lose this game, if Xavier knocked down a bunch of threes. And they did. And Texas gave them way too many clean looks from beyond the arc. And again, you credit the Musketeers. They had to make the shots. They made the shots. They shot 55% as a team in the game. They shot 48% from beyond the arc. But this one feels more like Texas just letting a golden opportunity slip away, and they did a lot of that this season. A lot of folks calling for Rodney Terry's job. We'll obviously talk about that because, look, to me, it's felt like Chris Del Conte has been looking for an excuse to make a change, and I think he got his excuse. Again, not a horrible season for Texas, all things considered, but this was an underachieving season for the Longhorns. And when you blow a 13-point lead in the first four game of the NCAA tournament, makes it pretty easy to rip the Band-Aid off and make a move if you want to ultimately make the move. And I think Chris Del Conte now has his excuse to do that with this loss tonight. Also with the fact that Texas is bringing nobody back. So we know Trey Johnson is gone. He's off to the league. Arthur Kaluma, Tremont Mark, Caden Shedrick, Jordan Pope, some of those guys, I think Longhorn fans are happy that they're leaving, but none of those guys are going to be back next season. So it almost feels like, hey, this could be the time to bring in a new coach, let him rebuild the roster the way he wants to build it, and just make it happen right now. Obviously, time will tell. I don't think this is going to be a tarmac type of situation or a we'll find out tomorrow type of situation, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if a change is coming at the top for Texas basketball. And just a frustrating game. Pulling up my notes here, pulling up the box score here. Just bad defense in the second half. Again, Xavier got way too many clean looks, some bad turnovers by Texas. The Longhorns only had 4 turnovers in the first half. They had more than that in the second half and some costly ones down the stretch. We saw one of those patented scoring droughts for this Texas offense. And these predate Rodney Terry. We saw a lot of this at the end of the Rick Barnes era. We saw this throughout the entirety of the Shaka Smart era. We'd see this with Chris Beard too, where Texas would just pick the most inopportune times to go 3 minutes without a bucket, 5 minutes without a bucket. And Texas, at one point in the second half, while Xavier was mounting their comeback, the Longhorns missed 11 of 13 shots. That allowed the Musketeers to get back in the game and ultimately take a lead. And for a while, Xavier was punching. They were punching. They cut the deficit to 4 a few different times, but every time they did, it felt like the Longhorns had a response and they punched back. But then Xavier tied the game and the crowd was going nuts. They obviously took a lead with 4 minutes to go. And down the stretch, again, just a total team collapse by Texas on both ends of the floor. They went cold offensively. Way too much hero ball, way too much ISO ball, the things that we've complained about this program all season long. And again, for the last few years, we saw all of that at the worst possible time. And then defensively, I mean, to let a team shoot 55% from the floor, to let a team make 12 threes in a must-win tournament game, that's unacceptable right there. Unacceptable. So just bad for Texas. Some bad sequences too. Trey Johnson and Xavier went up by 1. The first time they took a lead later in the second half, they go up by 1. Texas gets the ball back. Trey Johnson takes a horrible 3, and then he doesn't get back on defense. Nobody gets back on defense. Like, Trey's going to get blamed because he took the bad shot and it was his man who scored. But like, all 5 Longhorns on that possession are just like standing and watching Xavier get an and 1 layup on the other end. And yeah, to make matters worse, Trey Johnson just a half-ass shove in the back of the Xavier player who scores. Like, all right, give him 2. Don't give him 3, please. But like that sequence right there is horrible. There was a possession where Arthur Kaluma missed a bunny. Caden Shedrick got an offensive rebound, and then he missed a layup right after that. I think that was a part of the 11 of 13 missed shots that Texas had in the final few minutes here. Just bad. Just bad all the way around. And Trey Johnson, man, you live by the tray, you die by the tray. For most teams, that's the 3 ball. For this team, it's Trey Johnson. He did so many good things tonight, but 4 missed free throws? Did y'all see that? Did I see that right? Trey Johnson missed 4 free throws. That's an 89% free throw shooter. Like, even when he's had bad games during the regular season, and again, tonight wasn't a bad game. He led all scorers with 23, 6 of 14 from the floor. Like, did some good things, especially on the offensive end, but missed 4 free throws. Obviously, one of them could have tied the game in the final minute and a half. Like, that was bad. Bad defense, lazy defense, poor shot selection at times. Like, just a frustrating way for Trey Johnson to end what, again, was a really good season, leading the SEC in scoring, leading all freshmen around the country in scoring. Again, not a horrible game. His best shooting performance since the Mississippi State game on the road a few weeks ago, but bad and lazy defense and the 4 missed free throws. When the game is as close as this one, every single point counts. Texas has a team miss 6 from the charity stripe. Trey Johnson, again, a near 90% shooter. Chose a bad time to miss 4 tonight. And I don't know about y'all, by the way. I'll hit some of the comments here in a moment, so keep them coming. Appreciate y'all tuning in. It hurt that Texas was only up by 8 at halftime. Now, if you asked me before the game, would I have signed up for an 8-point lead at recess? Of course I would have. I think we all would have. But Texas shot 58% in the first half. They shot 50% from deep in the first half. They were plus 10 on points in the paint. I mentioned they only had 4 turnovers. They were winning on the glass. Like, it felt like they had maybe the best offensive half they've had in 2025, like since they started playing actual teams in conference play, and they were still only up by 8. Like, it felt like they could have been up by 12, by 15, by 18. They just couldn't get enough stops. Xavier made their shots on offense, and that's where it was like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, I knew the game was over then. I mean, it's not true, but you would have loved for Texas to have been able to extend that lead to double digits instead of it just being an 8-point game. And by the way, you needed that Tremont Mark buzzer beater at the end of the first half to even make it 8, right? X cut it down to 6. They had the momentum. Tremont Mark hit that big shot late to push it to 8. But again, it felt like the Horns did so many things right in the first 20 minutes to only be up by 3 scores going into recess. That had to feel like a win for Xavier because Fremantle had a couple of fouls and he didn't play a whole lot in the first half. Cronwell had 3 fouls. He missed a lot of the first half. There was an opportunity there for Texas to really flex its muscle and extend that lead, and they just didn't do it. It wasn't because of offense. They scored 47 points in the first 20. They couldn't get the stops they needed to get defensively to really stretch this game out and make it impossible for Xavier to come back. An 8-point lead, that's surmountable. And if it was 18 at halftime, I don't know if that's surmountable. Just wish Texas was able to do a little bit more. Obviously, that's not where the game got away from them. They got outscored by 14 in the second half. That's where things completely fell apart. But again, to me, it felt like the Horns had done enough to have more than an 8-point lead, and them not doing that ultimately ended up hurting them down the stretch. All right, going to give a quick sponsor shout out here, and then going to read some of y'all's comments. And we'll talk about Rodney Terry. Obviously, we'll talk more about his future on future videos here on Locked On Longhorns. But a lot of y'all are wondering about his future. A lot of folks are asking for Rodney Terry's head right now. We will talk about him in a second. But first, a quick shout out to our friends at 5 Hour Energy. Hey, daylight savings. I don't know about y'all, but it snuck up on me again. And if you're hurting from that lost hour of sleep, or if you just want more energy to watch all of the basketball, unfortunately, we won't be able to watch the Horns men's team anymore. Women's team's still alive. They're number 1 seed. They can make us feel a little bit better with some strong performances this weekend. But our friends at 5 Hour Energy have your back. The extra sunshine out there, all of this basketball, it means more time for more fun. Sometimes you need a little boost to power through, whether you're staying up late watching the tournament, squeezing in a round of golf, just trying to keep up with your busy workday. 5 Hour Energy gives you that quick, refreshing pick-me-up whenever you need it. It's on-the-go convenience, super easy to drink. I love 5 Hour Energy. I drink this stuff all the time. Get you some. Head over to 5hourenergy.com. Find more than 15 flavors to choose from. They got watermelon, blue raspberry, and peach mango. You can even build your own 12-pack or 24-pack. Have them delivered right to your door. And hey, they're all over grocery stores, convenience stores, wherever you are. So if you need a shot of 5 Hour Energy right now, go get you one. Stock up today and stay energized with our friends at 5 Hour Energy. All right, taking a look at y'all's comments here. Jeremy with the first comment of the night. Adios, Terry, a fitting ending to the season. Yeah, if you asked me to put money on whether or not Rodney Terry's going to be back in 2025-26, I would tell you no. I think a change is coming. I wonder if Texas didn't have its name called on Selection Sunday, if a change would have already happened. Obviously, you're not going to fire your coach before you play in the NCAA tournament. And you wonder if Texas won this game tonight, maybe beat Illinois on Friday and made a little bit of a run here in the dance, could that have saved Rodney Terry's job for at least one more year? Obviously, we'll never know the real answer to that question. But yeah, you lose a game like this. Again, it's felt like for a while that Rodney Terry's time was wearing thin here in Austin. Now you get the easy excuse to make a change. And I've talked about this a lot. I think this makes it easy. And I obviously brought this up a few minutes ago with the fact that this entire roster is pretty much gone. So you're going to have to build something from scratch. Y'all know that NIL money matters a lot. And you need money to build a competitive roster in this sport, in football, in baseball, in any sport. You got to have money, and you need more money than ever before. If the big money donors and the boosters don't support the head coach, they're not going to give your program the money it needs to succeed, right? We saw this with David Pierce in baseball. Like, David Pierce did some very good things as the Texas baseball coach, but a lot of the big money donors wanted a change. They stopped donating a bunch of money to Texas baseball. The Longhorns weren't able to bring in the talent that they needed to compete at the highest level in the sport. And then, well, a change is made. You bring Jim Schlossnagle in, helps to steal A&M's coach. All of a sudden, the money starts coming in, and boom, Texas looks like a legit contender again. Last night's loss notwithstanding. Now, coaching matters. I'm not using this to absolve David Pierce or Rodney Terry of all the blame. But the point is, I don't know how much financial support RT would get if he got brought back for another season. Whether you think that's fair or not, that's a different conversation. But to me, that's the truth. If you go out there and make a splash hire, you're going to get people bought back into this program again. Right now, look at the comments on this video. Look at Twitter. Look at Facebook. Look at Instagram. You see what people think about Rodney Terry and what people think about Texas basketball right now. There's some anger. There's some frustration. There's a little bit of apathy that I think has set in on a lot of Longhorn fans with the way this entire season went. So you need money to build a roster, and you've got a lot of pieces that you need to bring in for next year's roster. I don't know if you're going to be able to field a more competitive team than the one you had this year if you bring RT back. And oh, by the way, you're not going to have Trey Johnson. You don't have that lottery pick, that top 5 freshman in the country coming in who's going to make things easier on everybody else. You don't have that next year. So you're going to have to hit the portal hard. And again, you need money to get some of the best players from the portal. Texas was 8th in the SEC in NIL spending this year in basketball. I don't know if they'd be that high next year. And again, no Trey Johnson. That's going to make things a lot more difficult. Yeah, Michael says Terry is horrible. David, time for a change. This team was too inconsistent all year long. Yeah, they're going in the wrong direction, guys. Like 2023, Rodney Terry's first year, the interim year, they go to the Elite Eight. Last year, they get bounced in the round of 32. This year, they don't even make it to the round of 64. Like, that's going backwards, right? That's not what any of us are looking for. I get it. You're not going to make it to the Elite Eight every year. Duke doesn't do that. Kansas doesn't do that. It's how it goes. But you want things to point to that show progression. And there's not a lot you can point to with this Texas basketball program right now that shows that they are taking steps in the right direction. So that, again, feels like a reason to make a change right there. And yeah, this team was too inconsistent all year long. I agree with you 100%. All right, keep the comments coming. There's a farewell, Terry. Noe says this team did not belong in the tournament. Look, I think Texas belonged in the tournament. It was a pretty weak bubble, but you compare the Longhorns' resume to some of the other resumes of the teams that didn't get in. I think Texas had a better case than others, but I'm not going to argue until I'm blue in the face on that when they just blew a 13-point lead and lost to Xavier. So you might think I'm an idiot for trying to argue that Texas should have been in, considering the way that this game went tonight. But look, I still don't think North Carolina deserved to be in. They won by like 30 last night. I still think Texas did deserve to be in, and they lost tonight. So people's opinions are going to change based on these games. I get that. That's fair. I think Texas earned their spot here. They should have been in the first 4. They shouldn't have been anywhere further than this. But yeah, again, they lost. So I won't argue too much more on that. Come on, BK. They did. They choked. Like, they blew a 13-point lead. Texas led from, I wrote this down. Let me make sure I've got this right. Texas led from the 14:48 mark of the first half to less than 5 minutes to go in the second half. Like, they were in control of this game for 30 minutes. And they let it slip away. Again, they got stagnant on offense, and they gave up way too many clean looks from 3 on defense. And it takes a village to blow a lead like that. And everybody contributed to this collapse for Texas. So, yeah, if I'm sugarcoating it, or if it sounds like I'm sugarcoating it, I'm not trying to do that. It's a bad loss for Texas. This is a game that they should have won tonight. And boy, if you or your cousin went to FanDuel and bet on Texas plus 3.5, I'm so sorry. Because Texas was, they had the money line for, again, the vast majority of this game, but they sure as hell were covering the 3 in the hook for like 95%, hell, 98% of this one. And then yeah, they couldn't get it done at the end. More hustle in the first half. There was some laziness in the second half. This team got dejected. You saw it with Trey Johnson. You saw it with Trey Johnson all year. When things didn't go his way, he's a freshman. He's a 19-year-old kid, and he wears his emotions on his sleeve for better or for worse. But sometimes he just gets so frustrated and mad that he's almost pouting on the court, and that takes away from his game. And I think that impacts the other guys around him too. And that's, again, the other guys, they're all 21, 22, 23. You'd like to think they don't get impacted by that, but Trey Johnson's this team's best player. When your best player is mentally checked out or pouting or just not doing what he's supposed to do, that can impact everybody else on the floor. Damn, but at least we get rid of glasses. Oh, we're calling them glasses now. Gustavo Fring Terry. We've just resorted to glasses as his nickname. That's how mad we are. If you've got thoughts on who Texas should hire or who you want Texas to hire, assuming a move is made. And again, we don't have anything official yet. I don't think we'll get anything official for at least a couple of days. If you're talking about Rick Pitino's not coming. Sorry. He's in his 70s. I don't think he's taking another job beyond St. John's. I don't think Texas wants Rick Pitino because he's got a checkered past, but more so, he's 72. I think Texas wants to, like when Texas hired Beard, they thought Beard was going to be the guy for 2 decades. I think we all did. We all know what happened. I think this next hire, they would like to bring in somebody in their 40s or 50s who is going to be around, if things go well, for at least a decade, right? You'd love to get another Rick Barnes in here. Obviously, you'd love to get you a coach who's going to win you your first national championship in school history. But in terms of that type of run where he's here for a decade and a half and you're making the tournament pretty much every year, like that's what CDC is looking for. That's what he should be looking for. Rick Pitino might die before then. Sorry, Rick. You didn't need that. Hope you don't die. He's having a great year. It's a great story in college basketball right now. All right. A few more comments to read here. We'll go for a few more minutes, y'all, on this instant reaction as the Longhorns lose to Xavier, 86-80, the final score in Dayton tonight. Man, I got excited in the first half. I don't know about y'all. I didn't tweet out anything stupid or I didn't send any regrettable texts like, oh, man, we'll be playing on Friday and we could beat this Illinois team. But I was thinking about it. I was like, we look good tonight. We beat Vanderbilt and A&M last week. Illinois got some questions. I think they're beatable. Like, if Texas wins tonight, maybe they could beat Illinois. Then they get Kentucky on Sunday. Texas beat Kentucky in the regular season. I mean, could this team make a run to the second weekend? My mind was starting to drift to that point. And stupid me. I know better. Being a Texas basketball fan, I know better, especially being a fan of this year's Texas basketball team. Like, what was I thinking? Getting ahead of myself like that, talking about Texas making it to the Sweet 16 or getting to the Elite Eight again. Should have known that there was way too much time in this one for them to F it up. And sure enough, they F'd it up. Steal Vic Schaefer from the women's team. Yeah, no, that'd be a bad idea for a million different reasons. And I enjoy the women's team being as good as it is. I don't want to sacrifice that. Excited to watch the women. They'll play on Saturday to open up their tournament run. Hopefully the women can get to a Final Four. Like the men, they haven't been since 2003. The Texas women, well, they're a 1 seed, so they've got a much better chance to do that. But we'll see what Maddie Booker and Taylor Jones and Kyla Oldacre and Rory Harmon and company do. Excited to watch them. They've been entertaining all year long. 31-3, a lot more fun to watch than 19-16, which is the final record for the 2024-25 Texas Longhorns team. I'm not going to call Rodney Terry a DEI hire. Like, he did a great job in 2023, leading Texas to the Elite Eight. Now, look, part of coaching is building a roster, and Rodney Terry didn't have to do that. I understand that, but he did a great job. That season could have fallen apart for Texas after what happened with Beard. And the fact that the team had as good of a year as it did, winning the Big 12 tournament, making it all the way to the Elite Eight. It was Texas's first trip to the second weekend since 2008, 15 years in between second weekend trips. Like, he earned the opportunity to get to coach this team. So, and they didn't give him some ludicrous contract. They don't have a crazy buyout they have to pay him. Like, they kept the contract measured, when they gave Rodney Terry his full-time deal in case something like this happened. So his buyout's $4 or $5 million if they make a move right now. For Texas, that ain't much. They paid Tom Herman like 5 times that. We'll be willing to pay Rodney Terry. They've got the money to make that happen, to buy out him and his staff and to buy out some other coach from somewhere else and bring him in. I will say this. This is interesting. This is food for thought right now. When Rodney Terry got the gig on a full-time basis after that Elite Eight run, a name that a lot of folks were talking about was Sean Miller. Chris Del Conte was apparently very interested in Sean Miller. And you wonder if Texas lost in the round of 32, let's say, in 2023, or if they lost to Sean Miller's Xavier team in the Sweet 16 in 2023, does Sean Miller get the gig in Austin? And now sort of a second audition for Sean Miller. Is that where Chris Del Conte goes? Again, I don't know. I don't know if Sean Miller would want to leave. But I think Texas is one of the best college basketball jobs in the country. Let me rephrase that. I think Texas should be one of the best college basketball jobs in the country. With the money, with the resources, with the talent in the state of Texas. The Moody Center is the most expensive arena in America. The practice facilities are great. Like, there's no reason Texas can't get things figured out in basketball the way they have it figured out in pretty much every other sport on campus. So I think this is a destination job for a lot of people, not just a guy like Chris Beard who went to Texas and that's why he took the. I think there's plenty of coaches who would leave their current post to come here. I think Sean Miller is one of those coaches. I really do. Now, has CDC moved on? I don't know. Does CDC want to make a decision before Xavier's tournament run comes to an end? That'd be ridiculous because Xavier might lose on Friday, and that's 2 days from now. But that's something to watch, y'all. Like, that was a name that was talked about a lot by the insiders a couple of years ago. Sean Miller still at Xavier. Like, that'd be an easier sell now. It would have been a tougher sell. Rodney Terry just beat Sean Miller in the Sweet 16. You're going to fire RT and bring in Sean Miller? What are we doing here? Now, Sean Miller just beat you. Is that the guy you want? Is that the guy you want? I don't know. That's a name to keep an eye out on. We'll spend more time in future videos talking about other candidates. Again, if a move is made, CDC might come out tomorrow and give a vote of confidence to Rodney Terry. I got a hunch, though, that's not going to happen. Joe K says, tell RT I volunteer to help him pack tomorrow. Come on, man. Come on, man. Steven Silas. Rodney Terry getting the Steven Silas treatment. Yeah, that hurts. Hey, if you're telling me whoever replaces RT is as good as Ime Udoka, all right. Fine with that. Hopefully, the next Texas basketball coach is not sleeping with some athletic director's wife like Ime Udoka did in Boston. That dude's a hell of a coach, and no denying that. Yeah, major upgrade over Steven Silas. That's a pretty rough era of Houston Rockets basketball. Of course, Aggie Twitter's having a field day. Look, if Texas makes a change and they bring in a great coach, then we're going to look back at this day and kind of laugh and be like, maybe it needed to happen. I think this is, if you're a Texas hater, kick Texas while we're down. I don't think we're going to be down in this sport for much longer. Get your licks in tonight. And if you're a Texas fan, you got to take the licks because we blew this one. We choked this one away. But I think much brighter days are coming for Texas basketball. I don't know if it's going to happen next year, but I think this program is going to give us a lot to be proud of moving forward. Chris Del Conte has gotten just about every hire right. He's done just about everything right since taking over at Texas. He talked at that town hall event a couple of weeks ago about wanting every single Texas team to compete in the top 5 in the country. Look around campus. Football did that. Baseball's in the mix. Softball's number 1 or number 2. The tennis teams are great. Volleyball's won 2 championships in 3 years. Women's basketball, we talked about that. Rowing, like, go down the list. CDC's been true to his word, and I think he wants more than what the Rodney Terry era of Texas basketball has turned into. So I think he's going to go after a big fish. I expect him to land a big fish the way he did with Mike White for softball, Vic Schaefer for women's hoops. What we thought Chris Beard was for men's hoops. Hell, Sark, you could throw him in there. Obviously, Jim Schlossnagle as well. if a move is made, I don't think you're going to have to worry about the new coach not having the resume that Rodney Terry has. I think it's going to be a big-time hire. And again, I expect some big-time things from Texas basketball in the future. But unfortunately, we're going to have to wait. This tournament only happens once a year, and we're going to have to wait till next March at minimum to see what this Texas team can do. That one stung. Yeah, Slater, we were asked. Second half got out of hand. Offense, defense, special. Wrong sport. There's no special teams in this one. But a little bit of everything went wrong for Texas. And that is why the season is over. I haven't even looked at my text. I'm afraid to. I'm sure there's a lot of Longhorn fans who are upset, and I'm sure there's a lot of Texas haters that for some reason I'm friends with who are just letting me have it right now. That's why I don't want to end this video, because I don't want to look at my phone. I don't want to have to deal with that. I don't want to have to go back to the real world. Y'all help me. Comment something. Give me some thoughts. How would you grade this Texas season? I'm gonna give it a C minus. I'm gonna give it a C minus. It can't be an F. They made the tournament. If they didn't have their name called on Selection Sunday, it would have been an F. I guess there is a letter between C and F, so maybe it should be a D plus. It's bad. Frustrating. Again, a top 20 team to start the year. It's not people with two burnt orange screens behind them or wearing Texas hats who vote on those polls, by the way. It's unbiased media members who thought Texas was going to be a top 20 team with the roster that they had. And again, they were nowhere close to it. Injuries didn't help, but you wonder what this team could have been if Kendall Weaver was healthy. If Kendall Weaver's healthy, Texas isn't playing tonight. I'm not going to sit here and act like they win the SEC, but they win 2 or 3 more games, I think, and that's enough to get them out of Dayton in the actual tournament. And also, you wonder, this one's on RT. This one's not bad luck. If Rodney Terry made the move to Tremont Mark running point earlier than he did, because this offense looked a lot better. I know they lost tonight, but still, they did a lot of good things offensively. Obviously, the 2 wins in the SEC tournament happened when Tremont Mark was running the show. Like, if that move got made earlier, instead of trying it with Jordan Pope and Julian Larry, who clearly were not good enough to be point guards in the SEC this year, you wonder if that would have helped Texas win a few more games. But ifs and buts and candies and nuts, and if my aunt had nuts, she'd be my uncle, and whatever the hell the expression is. I feel like I combined 3 expressions there and got them all wrong. I'm getting tired. It's a little late. All right, we'll go for 1 or 2 more minutes here. If y'all have any final thoughts or comments, let me know. Again, Locked On Longhorns. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll talk more Texas basketball. We'll break this game down. I'll do a quick rewatch. Sadly, I'll obviously do some more research on some potential replacements for Rodney Terry. We'll talk about where Texas basketball goes from here. But man, that one stung. Again, I was starting to think that Texas had a chance to maybe win a few games here in March. Felt like they had things cooking. And then the one thing that was consistent about this Texas basketball team this year, they were inconsistent. Every time you thought you knew what this team was, they'd flip the script and give you something else, for better and for worse. Thought this team was really good early on. They'd let you down. You thought they were really bad. They were done. They'd bounce back. Again, at least I thought they'd turned a corner in Nashville. First half, it looked like it. Second half, obviously not. Getting outscored 47-33 in the final 20 minutes. No answers when they needed them. That Zach Fremantle's a hell of a player, man. He's a hell of a player. And Marcus Foster, 8 of 9, 4 of 5 from deep. We all talked about Fremantle and Conwell. Those are their 2 leading scorers. Those are the 2 guys that got Xavier to this spot. Marcus Foster was the reason they won. How about 22 and 8 boards on 8 of 9 shooting in 31 minutes? When Xavier's 2 best players were in foul trouble, they needed somebody to tread water while those guys were on the bench. Marcus Foster did the heavy lifting for them. So, yeah, I don't know. Kellen Sampson. I don't want Kellen Sampson. Good dude. I trust Jeans. I just want somebody who's proven. I don't want someone who's like an assistant somewhere and his dad or the head coach is a good coach. Maybe that works. But maybe it doesn't. I'd rather go get someone who's proven that they can win in high major college basketball maybe someone with some March success as well. That's why Chris Beard was like the right guy. He checked all of those boxes. I don't know if you're going to get a guy like that, but there are some coaches out there. Again, I'll compile a list for tomorrow's video of coaches that are less risky than a guy like Kellen Sampson, who, again, I think has potential. I think Kellen Sampson's taken over for Kelvin, by the way, when his time is done at Houston. I don't think he's going anywhere. So I don't even know if he's a realistic option, but he would not be at the top of my list of candidates. There's the word I was looking for. All right, guys and gals, appreciate y'all tuning in to Locked On, your team every day. Texas Longhorns content every single day. We'll talk baseball. We'll talk football. We'll talk women's basketball. More men's basketball to come. Special thanks to our title sponsor for today's video, Game Time. Again, don't forget, download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Shout out to 5 Hour Energy for sponsoring this video as well. And thank y'all. Really appreciate you guys tuning in. It's late at night. You're frustrated. I appreciate y'all letting me vent. I appreciate y'all venting with me. This would not be fun if I was by myself. So thank y'all for spending a few minutes late on your Wednesday night. Look, your team being out of the tournament sucks, but enjoy the tournament. 16 games tomorrow, 16 games on Friday, 8 more on Saturday and Sunday. It's a great time of the year. Go enjoy the tournament. Try to enjoy the tournament over the next few days, even though the Horns won't be a part of things. Hopefully the rest of the basketball is enjoyable to watch. But this one sucked. Season ends at the hands of the Three Musketeers of Xavier. All right, until tomorrow, thank you all again for tuning in. Horns up, mic's off. Talk to y'all soon. This is Locked On Longhorns.